Hello and welcome back to another MC Championship video. As you know, currently the Nox crew are taking their annual break from the MCC event, and since Season 2 is officially wrapped up, let's stop and rank every MCC game we've seen since the start of the season. We've got a lot of good game modes to discuss, let's dive right in. Please make sure you check the description for the disclaimer and take my entire ranking with a pinch of salt, since it's my opinion and I'm sure you have your own thoughts to share in the comments below. In last place, it's Grid Runners. The first time it was played, I loved it. All the puzzle rooms were creative and challenging, making for a fun and engaging experience, so a good first impression. So how has it fallen to the bottom? Well, after one event, a lot of the rooms started getting reused far too regularly, such as the golf room, and some rooms were barely played, such as Honey Slide. Some objectives have had different maps. For example, we've seen many versions of the Light the Lamp task, each with their own unique parkour layout. Beyond that, new rooms are rarely added, and I get that because it wouldn't make sense to suddenly make an entirely new set of rooms. But this game scores really low when it comes to variety and rewatchability. For a team that is struggling in a particular room, there's no escape, no skip button. Instead, they must spend a ridiculously long time on it, which just isn't fun. Barely clutching out the bottom spot is Survival Games. It's only got 4 maps, all of which have a similar flat and horizontal layout. I do like the coin crates to give a small boost to the weaker PvP teams, and the team placement bonuses place a greater emphasis on survival, but the issue arises with the kill score balancing, a problem which persisted for most of the season, where teams such as MCC19, Cerulean Candy Canes would receive a massive multiplied total from surviving till the end and amassing many kills. In this case, SG was played as the final game, and this skyrocketed this team into Dodgeball, which was deserved though, and since then the Nox crew have greatly fixed these scoring issues. There's a constant rising tension building up from the start of every SG, but most of the game isn't focused on PvP until the very end. Teams that were eliminated early are left waiting for a long time, and there just isn't that much chaos early on in the round, so it's kinda hard to get excited about it, till the climax, which is way too quick. Now we have to get to the other side and whack a fan, or TGTTOSWAF. The thing I love about this game is the RNG factor. It strikes a decent balance between a participant's skill and pure luck. The punch-in, although frustrating for the players themselves, is just so funny for the viewers. It's led to some beautiful rage moments like the Captain's Curse in MCC19. As for the maps, I feel like every To Get to the Other Side takes 6 very different maps from all movement aspects such as bridging, gliding, jumping, or running. Every map is recognizable and memorable. My favorites include both Terror Swoop Force tunnels and Badlands. Yet there are some outright goofy maps that hold the game back, such as Launcher, where only around half of all players finish, and the rockets are just annoying. I reckon if the maps were made a little more accessible to less able Minecraft players, and perhaps added more shortcuts, then this game could definitely get to the other side of this ranking. See what I did there? Anyway, moving into the top 10, starting with Meltdown. It quickly lost the initial tension that came from it being played the first couple times, and there's a very simple reason for this. It's been in every canon event since its introduction, so it's been on a playing streak of 7, which is huge, and it now definitely deserves to be benched for at least the next event. It has a cool idea which pulls together elements from other games such as Battlebox and Sky Battle for PvP skill, especially long range with the bow, and requires clear comms in order to win, which is similarly displayed in team games like Sands of Time. I like the soundtrack for this game to some extent, especially the first half, which is filled with rising suspense, but the climax at the end of the track isn't as exciting as it should be for the end of each round. What's the issue with Meltdown then? The fact it still only has one basic map, which was thankfully improved recently with more doors to prevent teams getting cornered. Perhaps they could add small puzzle areas which reward coin crates on completion. Now we have the placement I'm least confident about, Ace Race in 9th. It has nice music, greatly improved mechanics introduced in MCC23, incredibly detailed maps with unique features such as the sliding doors, and is really intense with only mere seconds separating several placements. But at the same time, there isn't anything that stands out. Like I said, it's implemented sliding doors, but nothing about the game instantly tells you it's on the Nox crew, and it's a rare example of a movement game which doesn't offer bonuses for full team completions or for actually finishing a lap. Instead, you only get rewarded for finishing the full course, which not all players can do, especially in non-canon events with players that are less specialized in Minecraft. The addition of individual bonuses in MCC15 for the top finishers was good though. While we probably need more maps, I understand that with the sheer size of every map, new ones will arrive slowly. Hopefully they can change the positions of shortcuts to throw players off, in particular the sweaty VOD reviewers. In 8th place, it's Hole in the Wall. Let me put it this way, besides the platform shape and maybe some wall layouts, nothing changes between events for this game. Each platform shape is different enough from the rest to change the dynamic of the rounds in that event, but I feel as though there needs to be more, and since they're much smaller compared to Ace Race maps, it shouldn't take that long to design a new platform. They're way more important than the surrounding landscape, which no one actually pays much attention to. For now at least, the platforms are just 2D. I do think the Nox crew are missing a fantastic opportunity to add terrain and blocks and stick out, which could change between rounds, so no 2 rounds ever feel the same. I think the returning walls and modifiers we have on MC Island could potentially work well in the event too, and I also desperately want to see the Spectator Payback remix from Pride 22 back at some point. We're at the halfway point of this entire ranking, so the most average game for me is Build Mart. Alright, it's only had one map for the entirety of Season 2, excluding that dodgy MCC24 crossover remix with Sands of Time, but that map was so good. The actual shopping area had one of the most creative solutions to increasing speed and making a more enjoyable game to watch with the Elytra and jump and speed pads from Ace Race. New builds were constantly added to the pool, even one of my builds was used once in MCC17. It was called Precious Souls by the way, but the fact that the Nox crew were able to establish an interactive link between the game and the viewers by letting us submit our own builds was amazing. There were even new ones months for the holiday events in October and December. Sadly, Build Mod isn't played enough anymore. If you set aside MCC 24's remix, then the last time Build Mod was played in a canon event was MCC 20, the very first event of this year. Moving on to 6th place, which will be Parkour Tag. It sort of worked as a replacement for Parkour Warrior in the 2 years it was gone, but now that it's back, it'll be interesting to see if Parkour Tag stays in regular rotation or whether it's now going to be benched more often. Anyway, this game has a very simple but chaotic idea that not only relies on one's parkour ability, but also stress management and the importance of good communication to keep survivors alive for as long as possible. All the maps are tightly packed into a dense and vertical arena, which in some ways makes the game repetitive, especially as there's 9 rounds, but each map separates itself from the rest in its own way. For example, Plaza introduced the super cool ice speed boost pads, which are also added to Dust Bowl. The music for this game is mediocre compared to some more exciting tracks of other movement games. There's also a lot of remix potential with this game, for example, having rising lava over time, or changing the start areas for each survivor so they're instantly separated. Here we go, moving into the top 5 games of Season 2, let's kick off with Rocket League Rush. Almost everyone should agree with me when I say it was a giant step up from its Season 1 counterpart, and well worth the wait. There's still 3 rounds, but what's different from this game that separates it from all the other movement games, except to get each other side, is the fact that there's a different map every round, with a mix between slower moving ones like Classic and Santorini, and fast-paced maps which quickly evolve in a matter of seconds like Journey and Temple. The twist of having new lands spawn in while older pieces quickly crumble encourages competitive elytra movement to keep up with the crowd, which is genius as it allows for more chances of mid-air dogfights and ground combat, making RSR a constant and exciting battle, and it has one of the most upbeat and enthusiastic soundtracks in the entire MCC album. Personally, I feel as though kills should reward more coins than the current amount, which is 10 per elimination, especially as kills are less common now. Let's discuss my favorite team and communication game by far, which is Sands of Time. It never gets boring. As the only true PvE game in MCC, there's a lot to do, from searching the dungeon for coins and vaults to the crucial role of the Sandkeeper for time management and solving nearby puzzles. My favorite feature, which keeps this game always so engaging, is the fact that the entire dungeon layout is randomly generated every single event, so it's impossible to predict the best routes. Every room or puzzle is riddled with complexity and requires a great deal of thinking. It even incorporates dangerous parkour over lava and a tiny amount of luck in some cases too. I feel like the Sphinx at spawn is becoming a little redundant, as it's only been used a couple times throughout the whole of Season 2. I get that it isn't meant to always be utilized, but to increase the difficulty of decision making, the percentage tax on players' coins for banking could be tweaked as an added incentive for players to risk losing some of their hard-earned coins. After all, it is a game all about risk taking. Before we head to my top 3, just remember that only a small percentage of the people who watch my videos are actually subscribed. My Christmas present to you this year is some bonus MCC content during the break, so why not repay the favor? Subscribing is a free gift after all. Earning the bronze medal is Battle Box. It suffers the same issue as Parkour Tag, where there are 9 rounds all on the same map, meaning teams may have to change their strategies or adopt a new one completely. Some maps like Doom are less tailored to concrete rushing, so weaker PvP teams could incur major losses, but this has easily been countered as there are so many Battle Box maps now, each one being suitable to a certain playstyle. For instance, Santa's Sleigh in the festive events has become famous for flanking as well as being incredibly long range heavy. The kits always change with the map, so there's usually something for everyone. All the maps are just the right size, not too big and not too small, encouraging sudden unprovoked fights at any point within the short 60-second time limit. Truly one of the most chaotic games. The MCC 21 remix with Trident and 2 capture points was a fresh and well executed concept. The game just needs a more captivating background track. Our runner-up for best MCC Season 2 game is Parkour Warrior. It's only been played twice, we've barely seen what it has to offer, and yet it's already one of my absolute favorites. It directly addressed the big error with the original Season 1 Parkour Warrior by making the main course significantly easier to complete, and adding bonus parts for extra points which are optional to attempt for the more skilled players. The map is well signposted, clear, and easy to follow, and the 30 seconds overtime at the end is generous extra time to complete the course, provided you don't fall. I will admit, I am aware that many sections from the first time it was played in MCC 26 were copied over to MCC 28, but there were also a lot of fun new challenges to complete, so for now it's unclear where this game scores in terms of variety. What we do know is the music is a sick beat, and for me it's easily one of the best. To make VOD reviews more intriguing, perhaps there should be more than one way to complete a section, which should be less obvious to find the intended path. And for my number 1 game of all time in MCC, it hasn't changed from last year, it is of course Sky Battle. Every round is fast enough to keep it entertaining while maintaining a continual underlying intensity. The soundtrack effectively builds up that suspense, and every map is symmetrically structured, each containing its own unique quirks, like those water elevators in Candyland and Mesa. Speaking of the maps, there may not be that many, however there is enough in all of them to prevent repetition. There are so many possible strategies, whether they're survival focused or kill focused. The wow factor really comes from the vast number of projectiles and explosives that are available, which are responsible for the wonderful mayhem that occurs in the middle island at the peak of every round, resulting in golden clips such as Grian's 6 kills with TNT in MCC 17. And the chaotic magic of Sky Battle can now be experienced by us, the viewers, on MCC Island, so it's a win-win for everyone, even if you die early on in the round. So there's my ranking for all 13 MCC Season 2 games. Let me know if you have your own list to share in the comments below. Let's have a healthy discussion about these incredible games. Well, I've been your host, I hope you found this video informative and enjoyable, and I'll catch you on the next MCC video. See ya!